Hello, and welcome to another episode of Let Me Tell You a Story. I am one of the co-hosts, Marvin Carolina Jr., along with Stephanie and Pete, and we're going to have a good time telling stories today. Um, Through our episodes so far, we've just telling stories about life, about business, and it's been really enjoyable to hear other people's version of how they view things and the lessons they've learned. So we're going to kick it off today. If we have any starting comments, I want Pete to go ahead and tell a story if he has one. But Stephanie, if you have any opening comments, I want you to jump in too. But we're going to start with a story from Pete.
F-
Yeah.
Go ahead, Stephanie. Go ahead.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Marvin. Hey, Pete. It's good to see you guys again. Glad to be here. I just want to say that this has been really a great experience, just getting these stories out, talking about, what's been happening, what the lessons are. It's really a lesson that I've taken back personally to my team. And really helping them to understand how everything that we're building is for us to build together and build legacy for our families. And really, I want to hear their stories. So I'm going to do this plea right now as they're listening to this podcast. Send your stories in, team. We want to hear from you. Thank you.
All right. Good deal. Pete.
Love it, Stephanie. Yeah, no, the aha moments that people are willing to share have been fantastic. And to kick us off, I got a great story from Lauren, and she titles it "The Decision to Step In." So let's go. It started with a video that most people would have watched once and forgotten. The original owner of Time was sharing that the brand was going to close. It wasn't dramatic or polished, just honest. The kind of update that usually marks the end of something. Lauren didn't move on from it. At that time, she was already established as a stylist, working closely with clients and seeing firsthand how much everyday routines matter. She knew how often people struggled with tools that felt complicated, inconsistent, or just didn't fit into real life. So when she saw that video, she didn't just see a business shutting down. She saw something that still had a place, something that just needed to be approached differently. That led to a decision that didn't come with a clear plan. She chose to step in and take over Time Style, knowing it would mean rebuilding something that had already gone through its own challenges. Taking over an existing brand is different from starting one. There's history, expectations, and a lot that needs to be understood before they can move forward with anything. It requires patience and a willingness to figure things out as you go. Instead of trying to change everything at once, Lauren focused on what she already knew from experience. People don't need more steps in the routine. They need something they can rely on, something that works the same way every time, whether they're at home or getting ready somewhere else. That became the direction. The focus shifted towards simplicity, consistency, and building tools that fit into real life. Not just something that looks good once, but something people can come back to every day without thinking twice. Rebuilding took time. There were moments where progress felt slow, where decisions didn't have immediate results, and where it would have been easier to follow what was trending or expected. But that wasn't the path she chose. Over time, the change showed up in the way people responded. Customers came back. The brand felt steadier, not louder, not rushed, just more reliable. Looking back, the turning point wasn't seeing the video, it was deciding to act on it. The lesson that continues to hold is simple. Not every opportunity looks like one at first, when it's worth stepping in and being willing to build it into something that does work.
Wow. Okay, I'll jump in first. The immediate thing that jumps off the page to me is thinking differently. We got all three of us can look at the same situation and get something totally different. They saw something different in the business. And it's okay. People think different is bad. Different is not bad. Different is actually fantastic. I like people who think differently. And that's how you get to be successful. You think a little bit different than the norm. And that's how success. They looked at the business that was struggling, shutting down, what have you, and they said, what if we just move these things over here, move these things a little different, move these things a little, did this a little bit different. And that's how success came about for them. And I thought that was just wonderful. And it's about thinking different. Then it's okay. It's not, I don't think like everyone else. That's not a bad thing. I mean, most of us just want to join in with everybody else. But some people who think different think that's bad and it's not. So I love the thinking different.
Yes, and it's kind of like Lauren paid attention to the details. And if you don't pay attention to the details, sometimes you miss the makeup of what it is you're trying to see. But she paid attention to the details and was able to then have a vision, and also told me she just rolled up her sleeves and went for it.
Right.
Where the last story was about intentional change and, doing those things, which was great, right? But Lauren said, you know what? I don't necessarily know what to do here, but I know that this is a necessary thing to do. And so she just rolled up her sleeves, got in, figured out that there needed to be a connection, right, with her clients and the clients to the product to be able to really create that consistency, ease of use, reliability, trust of the brand. So, I agree. It was kind of like you have to be willing to be different, but you also have to just take a chance.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and as a business owner, that's what you do. You don't always get it right, but the great thing about it is that you can, try different things and see how it works out, as long as you have the end game in mind, which is the connection, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like she wanted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and two things really jumped out to me from Lauren's powerful story, and jumping off of Stephanie's comments, she took that uncertainty and she focused on, hey, I am going to make it simple, right? And people love simplicity, right? Where I understand how things are going to work. And that's from the customer standpoint and from her, team's standpoint. Okay, I know what to expect. And what that builds the foundation for then consistency, and that's the second piece that really jumped out at me. So she built that consistency that people could expect, and built the thriving business, taking it over. And consistency always beats intensity. I mean, we love that initial flux, emotion, and huge energy. But if it's not consistent, if it's not pulled through, then it doesn't carry forward. And it just, I couldn't help but smile reading that story, because, another plug for Marvin's book. And again, if you people haven't picked up, let me tell you a story yet, you need to. One of Marvin's really, really powerful stories that resonated with me, when he talked about being a youth coach and just the consistency of going to practice, and working with those young men, those, basketball players in San Diego, to forge them to come together. Just consistency is the key. And those two pieces, being simple and consistent, are really powerful lessons from Lauren's story.
Yeah. And so let me do this as we transition. I'll tell that story since you started it, Pete. I'll tell that story. I was out living in San Diego, California, and I was asked to be a coach, a youth basketball coach. And I'm a sports guy. I love sports. And I partnered with a guy, and he would show up sometimes. I would show up sometimes. No one would show up sometimes. And the kids would show up, not show up. And then I made a commitment and said, I'm going to be here. Whether he comes, I come, I'm going to be here. And we were terrible. When I say we were terrible, they changed the rule that they couldn't press you full court because we couldn't get the ball across half court. But our guys stuck with it. And as I became more consistent in coming and teaching them and training them and coaching them, they became more consistent. And more of them started coming out, and other people started joining our teams. Within a year, we were the #1 team in the county, San Diego County. It's because of the consistency and the way that we kind of stuck together. We would go to the baseball games. We would drive up to Los Angeles to Disneyland, and we would go to Magic Mountain up in LA. So we did a lot of things together. But what happens, you got to show that commitment, and you got to be consistent, and things will change. Things will get better. And our team was, I mean, we were just comfortable beating teams, but it's hard to think of how we started. I mean, we were really, really bad. So that's to finish out that story. So,
Yeah, and I think that's how Lauren felt right at the start, and then she brought that together with that consistency. So love it.
all right. Stephanie, do you have a story
Oh,
for us?
yes, I am really excited about this story. This is just a personal story that someone sent in, and I kind of want to say grab your cup of hot chocolate or your cup of hot tea, because this story really feels like a hug in a mug, right?
Okay.
It really sat with me and resonated with me as I was reading it. I am a very emotional person. Hopefully, I will not cry on this podcast. But if I do, hey, it's real stories, real people, and real lessons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to connect. But this story is called "The Stranger That Stayed."
The stranger that,
That stayed.
yep.
The stranger that stayed. There was a time in my life when survival was the only thing I knew. Not living, not dreaming, not healing, just surviving. Every morning felt like a battle before my feet even touched the floor. I carried years of disappointment, heartbreak, fear, and silent pain in places nobody could see. People looked at me and saw a young woman trying her best, but inside I was exhausted, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I had become so used to chaos that peace felt unfamiliar. I learned how to keep going even when I was breaking. I smiled when I was hurting. I stayed strong when I wanted to fall apart. I handled problems alone because life had taught me not to expect anyone to stay. Survival mode became my identity. I was constantly fighting financial struggles, self-doubt, anxiety, loneliness, and the heavy feeling that maybe life would never get better for me. And the hardest part was that I had started losing faith, not only in myself, but in God too. I would pray, but deep down, I wondered if heaven could really hear someone like me. Then one day, when life felt especially heavy, I met a stranger. At first, it seemed like an ordinary encounter, nothing dramatic. A 2 hour ride to a different city to take a meeting. Just a conversation that somehow felt safe, different, calm, like my soul recognized something before my mind did. She listened without judging me. She spoke with kindness, but also honesty. And somehow she saw strength in me that I could no longer see in myself. What I didn't realize then was that God was answering prayers I had cried silently. The stranger didn't come into my life to save me. She came to remind me who I was. Over time, she became more than a stranger. She became a mentor when I felt lost, a friend when I felt alone, and a sister when I needed family. When fear told me to quit, she encouraged me to keep going. When I doubt myself, she reminds me that my past does not define my future. When my faith becomes weak, she teaches me how to pray again, not perfectly, but honestly. She showed me that survival mode may protect you for a season, but eventually you have to learn how to live again. There are days I want to give up on myself, days when the pain feels louder than purpose. But she keeps pushing me toward faith, courage, healing, and accountability, not with pressure, but with love. She taught me that healing is uncomfortable, growth requires surrender, and faith means trusting God even when nothing around you makes sense. Little by little, I am changing. I started believing that maybe I deserved peace. Maybe I deserved joy. Maybe God had not abandoned me after all. For the first time in a long time, I stopped merely surviving and started becoming stronger, becoming wiser, becoming whole. And through every lesson, every hard conversation, every prayer, and every moment she stays beside me, I realize something powerful. Sometimes God sends strangers into our lives because they carry the exact light we need to find our way out of darkness. Not everyone who changes your life arrives with a title. Some arrive as strangers and stay as answered prayers, and she stayed. Dedicated to a very special stranger who stayed, and she knows who she is. Uh, that is so deep. So
Mhm.
deep. That was from Christina W out of North Carolina. Um, Marvin, I know you have a lot to say. This story just sat with me so much. Because it reminded me that we all have a light in us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how bright the light shines. It's for other people. It's for other things to be illuminated that we don't have any control over. And what this stranger did in this young lady's life is allow her to see who she was on the inside, right? And
Mm-hmm.
who she was purposed to be, And I think that there's a lot to say in a stranger. And you
Yeah.
never know what you can, gain from somebody you have no idea about, or what you can give to somebody that you've never met. So I cried when I read that story, because it sits with me personally. And I just encourage the young lady, it's a story about resilience, about trust, about faith, about perseverance. Like, so I could go on and on and on with the words, right? But I love how Christina was vulnerable in sharing the story. And this is what we
Yeah.
want to hear, right? We want to hear the vulnerability, because that's where the lessons come from, right? And then realizing the strength that she had within. So I love this story. It sits personally with me, and knowing I can relate to that in a lot of ways.
Right.
Also, hope that the stranger knows that the impact that she's had.
Yeah. And I'll jump in with this. There's two things. First of all, we need that stranger. All of us need that. We need somebody in our corner supporting us. I don't care whether it's a husband, it's a wife, it's a mother, it's a cousin, it's a father, whoever it is. We need somebody who just believes with us beyond our belief, especially
Yeah.
when we're going through a hard time. And sometimes we just can't see it. I mean, we just got our head down. We're just trying to get through this day and we can't see it. And it is so critical to have that, person in our corner. And as we're going through something, to have that person guide us and help us, support us, give us belief. And the other side of it, we need to be that stranger sometimes, intentionally, on purpose, and be focused. As we go through our day, we need to look for people that we can be that guiding light. And sometimes it's just a matter of hello, how are you today? And you can sometimes you can tell when people that you know and they kind of give you that, oh, everything's good. Okay, that didn't sound like everything's good.
Right.
And sometimes we need to be on both sides of that. We need that person. And other times we need to be that person for other people and help them get through a tough time, particularly when we know somebody's going through a tough time, to just give them a call, just to stop by. Let's go grab breakfast. Let's get together. So we need to be on both sides of that. We need to find people who support us because we're going to go through it. I don't care how successful people are. We're going to go through somewhat of a roller coaster, and we're going to need that person to just say, "It's all right.
Yeah.
Everything's good." And we're going to sit on the other side, and we need to be that same thing for other people. So that's an excellent story. Excellent, excellent. Pete.
Yeah, Marvin, just to piggyback off of that, the having someone in your corner, the believing in you is so powerful. And that's such a great message that the stranger delivered, for her. And to me, the thing that makes that happen is the listening without judgment, right? And that is so important in life, in any relationship, with business, any aspect, where so often we listen to respond or listen to, tell our side of the story to justify our actions or whatnot. And if we're truly listening, we're listening, right? 100% on that person, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. And what that did, to me, it enabled a paradigm shift where, hey, I'm going from surviving / struggling to now I'm becoming. It's funny because I wish we had her on and asked her a question. what's she really doing differently day to day? I think it's just a mindset shift, a paradigm shift, where she's probably doing a lot of the same things, but now I believe and I'm becoming instead of, oh, I'm head down and I'm grinding. And that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And the way we impact others, I think it should be something that we're more aggressive about and more intentional about. How can we be a stranger to other people and help them going forward? That is an awesome story to end today's episode because I'm going to be thinking about that the rest of the day and the evening. But thank you, Christina, for that wonderful story. Again, all of you continue to send in these stories. These stories mean a lot to us, and it means a lot to our audience and our listeners who are listening in on this. So continue to send the stories, personal stories, professional stories, business stories, whatever they may be. Continue sending them. But thanks again for the stories we read today. Any other closing comments?
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
just like to I'm sorry, Pete. I would just like
no,
to
no, go.
reflect I just like to reflect on what you really said, Marvin, about intentionality. It doesn't take any energy to send someone a text to say, "Hey, just thinking about you, hope you're doing well." Someone you haven't talked to in months. Because you never know what that just simple thing will do to let someone know that you're thinking about them. They may very well have something that's on their heart that they need to share, get off of their chest. So you might be the person. Doesn't necessarily have to be a stranger, right?
Mhm.
So sending a text. One of the things that I do with my team is I do before every meeting, it's how you doing, mind, body, spirit. Because when you know where someone's mindset is in that day, you know how to interact with them. We all come in sometimes with, maybe we're upset, something happened on the way to work, or you just woke up on the wrong side of the bed sometimes, right? But you come in and you may be snappy, and this is in your personal life, anything, but when you stop for a second and when you ask someone how they're doing, it's not a formality. If you ask, expect and listen for the answer. Because sometimes people say, well, I'm not doing good, but who cares? No one's going to listen anyway. Well, no, I asked you because I want to listen. And so be that person, intentionally that just takes a moment to just check on someone, check on your brother, your sister, your mom, your friend, your long lost pal that you fell out with 10 years ago and you don't even remember why, because, someone needs you. Someone
Yeah.
needs you, and you may very well need them and
Yeah.
just don't know it. So I just encourage you to be intentional about checking in on people.
And it's how you say it too. So how you
Yeah,
doing? Oh, I'm doing fine. No, no. How are you doing? And
right.
then you emphasize, you look at them and they're like, not that way.
Right.
You're like, go
Yeah,
ahead,
because
Pete.
someone will say, I'm doing all right. I'm doing good. They'll say, I'm doing good. And you're like, how you said that doesn't match. Your energy doesn't match. And you have to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know a person, you can tell when someone's melancholy or happy or they're trying to suppress excitement. You can tell those things. So I'm sorry. P, I know you have something you want to add. I could go on about this.
I think we're all saying the same thing and fired up. I mean, it was a great way to end this session, and
Yeah.
it inspires you. Everybody's battling something. Everybody's fighting something right now. So I'm excited, just like you said, to reconnect with some people that I haven't touched with in a while, and just genuinely check in. How you doing? So I appreciate both of your comments, and I'm excited to put it into action leading into this weekend.
Yeah, I have three people right now that came to mind that I wrote down. I'm gonna text them as soon as I get off this episode. I'm gonna text them and say, "How you doing?" Because I
That's
know they're
good.
going through stuff, and it's been a few weeks since I've checked in with them. But I need to check in with them, and that story helped me, reminded me, don't get too caught up in what I'm doing that I can't step away and check on some other people. So, all
Yeah.
right, thank you all for listening in today. Thank you to co-hosts Stephanie and Pete, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again.